Hello, good evening, and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live with me, your host, Owen. I'm very fortunate tonight to be joined all the way from Scotland by a member of the Heart and Hand team, Marina Bannatyne. Marina, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me on. Any excuse to get out of watching the Europa League final.
Oh yes, and brings back memories of last season, doesn't it?
Yeah, too dramatic just now.
Yeah, we don't want to even think about that. Definitely don't want to think about that. So, guys, Victoria is busy today in working on something in Canada. So we are obviously going to talk to Marina about all things Glasgow Rangers. We're going to talk obviously a little bit about the game on Saturday, but then obviously the majority we're going to talk about the future because that's a big one. Now, off air we were talking a little bit, Marina, about the big news today. And that's not one of the questions I mentioned, but what's your take on the big news about them lot from across the city and their manager possibly going down south?
I think ideally I'd like Postecoglou to stay for another season because I really want Beale to beat him like fair and square, and for us to beat him fair and square. If he leaves Celtic, he's going to leave with this hero status that I don't think he deserves. That said, disruption's always good, and the most important thing is for us to win the league. So anything that helps that is good. So I'm a bit conflicted about it.
Absolutely, yeah, me too. I know, Dan. I was saying to Marina before we came on air that down here Spurs fans are in uproar and they don't want him. But yeah, I agree with me, and it would be nice to put him in his place. And to be honest with you, I think Michael Beale has kind of got his number a little bit. I think we have been the better team when we've played them in the last couple of games, the Parkhead game, and obviously the 3-0 victory. So I think it'll be nice, like Marina says, to stay and rub his nose in it a little bit and let him know, exactly where he is with things.
Exactly.
Just going to say hello to a few people in the live chat. Hello to Nicholas, one of my mods, all the way from South Wales. We've got David as well in the live chat. We've got Aldo, another one of my mods, another quality mod there. Brian in the live chat. A few other people down here further down. RFC 56. Lots of people talking over lots of different issues at this moment in time. You're all very, very welcome here on Glasgow Rangers Nation. So, Marina, tell us your Rangers story. Tell us about, how you first started supporting Rangers and your all-time favourite player and your favourite current player.
I don't know where to start. So I don't really come from. I'm always quite envious when you hear people who come from families that have a history of supporting Rangers. Thank you, Jimmy. And yeah, so but I don't really have that. I guess it was my stepbrother Graham who got my brother Gordon into supporting Rangers, and being a younger sister, I just kind of copied everything they did and followed suit that way. But Gordon and Graham both had season tickets when they were younger, and I think my mum was a bit averse to her only daughter. My mum was quite old-fashioned back then, so she was quite averse to her only daughter being a football fan. So I had, my first Rangers top was Adidas one with the 3 bars in the shoulder that my brother bought for me, but my mum wouldn't let me wear it because it advertised alcohol. So yeah, when I was a teenager, my boyfriend at the time, his dad used to take us to the games quite a lot, so I was very fortunate that way. It was quite difficult being like a girl, like a female Ranger supporter. I'm not sure if a lot of people can relate to this, but I think a lot of us, we don't really have the same group of friends that you can go to games with or go on Euro trips with. So my school was predominantly, it was an all-girls school, and then there were some boys there, but not that many. At uni, my friends were girls. Not many of my friends from home support Rangers. So yeah, I was on holiday last week and with girls, and no one wanted to watch the game with me or anything like that. So it is a bit more difficult. But that all changed in 2007 when I met my partner in crime, Caroline. And Caroline and I just sort of bonded over Rangers. And Caroline is from the Isle of Harris. And her family, her friends are all such lovely people. Took me under their wing. I went to Manchester with them. Went to lots of Cayleys and events, and become an honorary Herach. And so yeah, that's about it. Well, actually, in 2018, the end of 2018, Caroline and I joined the Heart and Hands team. So we have a small show on Heart and Hands called Blue Scarves On, where it's just really Caroline and I talking like we usually would about Rangers, and we've met loads of lovely podders and friends, subscribers through Heart and Hand.
Absolutely cool. And who's your all-time favourite Rangers player?
Oh, sorry, forgot to answer that part. So all time, there's so many to choose from. Amaruso was a big favourite of mine. He's not my all-time favourite, but he was when I was a teenager. And obviously there's like McCoy, Laudrup, Gaza. Alan, but yeah, my all-time favourite will have to be Alan McGregor, and he probably was. Well, he was like my current favourite until last week.
Yeah. I know from listening to Heart and Hand, you do have a soft spot for Alan McGregor, don't you?
I do. I know. I can't believe, I kind of left that hanging there, didn't I? But yes, big fan of Alan McGregor.
Yeah, I know. I remember listening to the pod you did the other day, and listening to your sorrowful moments, realizing that Alan McGregor will not be playing for Rangers again.
I know. I understand. Like, it is for the best, and his best years are behind him. And it was quite painful even for me to watch this year. And Morelos as well. I loved Morelos, so it was a double whammy. But Alan McGregor, that's a lot of love there, or a long term. So yeah, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah, don't blame me. Alan McGregor is absolute legend, and it's like I was saying to you when I was emailing you. My initial favourite Rangers player was Chris Woods. That's one of the reasons I started supporting the club, because I was a keeper when I was younger, and Woods was my hero, and he joined Rangers, so that's why I started supporting them. And we've had so many outstanding goalkeepers, haven't we? And I think Alan McGregor is going to go down in history as probably one of the greatest, along with Andy Gorham and Stefan Kloss. We've been exceptionally fortunate as a club to have so many amazing goalkeepers at Rangers.
Yeah.
So, Marina, obviously the last game on Saturday, the last game of the season, had a bit of a friendly feel to it. But what were your overall general thoughts about the game against St Mirren on Saturday?
I didn't really think too much of it. It's hard to tell, isn't it, when there's not really much to play for, and it's just been such a disappointing season. You just want it over and done with. That said, I think there are some positives to take from it. Cantwell and Raskin, Ridvan and Suter have all played really well consistently for the past 6 or so games. So I think the future does look bright. And I really liked that those players still had that drive to win, to play well, despite the fact that it didn't really mean too much. So yeah, there were some positives, but I'm just so glad that this season's passed and we can move on.
Absolutely. I think it's what Michael Beale said, didn't he, in that press conference pre-St Mirren, good riddance to this season. And I think that's about right. Definitely good riddance to the season. It's a question in the live chat for you there, Marina. Says Paul McGarrigle, one of our regular watchers, says, Marina, what's your favourite McGregor save?
I think it has to be Bremen. That's probably the classic answer. But Bremen, because he said so many great ones. I've got a picture of the Samaras penalty up in my mum's signs, up in my my room in my mum's house. But yeah, it's got to be Bremen. Although I don't know, there's been some great ones in the past few years in Europa League.
Absolutely,
so, a lot to choose from there.
Absolutely, there was the one in Prague as well away that was fantastic, and there was
the interview after that as well. Was that the one that you gave the interview?
I got the ball. It didn't go in. I'd be a brilliant coach, me, wouldn't it? Yeah, that was fantastic.
You're not loving.
Typical Alan McGregor, not giving anything away in his comments. So one of the players, you've mentioned obviously some players that played exceptionally well there on Saturday. The Raskin, Suter, who I think has been brilliant since he's come back and may well save the club a lot of money. Now, one player who seems to divide fan opinion at the moment was someone who scored 2 goals on Saturday, and that's obviously Fashion. Now, I love Fashion to bits. The smile's fantastic, but he's very inconsistent at times. What's your sort of general impressions of Sakala, and do you think he has a future at the club?
He's an absolute headache, isn't he? He's so likeable. Such a likeable player, but at the same time, I can understand why a lot of fans still aren't ready to forgive him for the semi-final. On paper, his stats are fantastic under Beale. He's done so well, and it's true that if he was obviously we want consistency, and that is one thing he certainly doesn't have. But if he was consistent producing those stats, he wouldn't be with Rangers. So I think there is still a place for him. But it all just depends. I guess it depends on the rest of the team as well, because he's a winger. He's not like a striker, so you probably shouldn't expect it to be one of the top scorers. So he might play better with other strikers, and misses like against Celtic won't be as painful. But I don't know. I think you want squad players who are challenging for the first team and who you can trust. And I'm not sure if that's him, but I don't know. He's a headache. He really is.
Yeah, he is absolutely. I agree with you, Marina. He is a complete and utter headache, and it's frustrating because at times he looks like a world beater. And I mean, the finish, the second goal on Saturday was very Iron Robben-esque in the way he cuts in and he shoots. And I know their goalkeeper didn't do the best of jobs, but he's got to. If you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery, do you? And he did that. His numbers are great. I get that. My personal opinion is he's more of a squad player. I don't think he's a starter for Rangers. And I think you're right. We do need strength in depth. We do need, him to perhaps have that opportunity. And like you said, if we have some proper strikers, there may be an opportunity, I think, for him to sort of come on and have an impact later on in games. But for me, he's more a squad player.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I'd like to think he would be first team, but our squad players should be pushing for the first team. So, and I guess you don't really want it, like we've been troubled with that in the past, like having a team with too many squad players and not enough players that you have that confidence in. So we don't want to go back there. But I think he could still have a part to play.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the other thing as well is we've got to all take into consideration is, whilst obviously we'd all love a huge clear out of as many players as possible, you just can't do that in one summer, can you? You can't get rid of. It's like that saying, isn't it? You can't chuck the baby out with the bathwater. And whilst I think all of us would like to see some of those players move on, some of them have to stay because we realistically haven't got the money and haven't got the. And also, it's difficult to bed in a whole squad over the summer, isn't it?
No, absolutely. I know you like, yeah, I'd love to say, no, he's not good enough. We need someone more consistent. We need better players. I absolutely get that, but we do need to be realistic, like what we can afford and where we are.
Absolutely. So yeah, another player obviously who's come in just recently, and obviously again thinking about the future is Robbie McCrory. Now he's done a decent job as Rangers #1 since he came in for your favourite Alan McGregor. Do you think that Robbie is the future of number one, or would you like to see someone come in and replace him or push him?
So I'm going to absolutely contradict something I've said before about Cantwell. I think it was like 2 minutes into Cantwell's first game that I declared I loved him, and that was it. But with McCrory, I'm going to be more cautious because his position is so important that I don't think that 6 games is enough to tell. I think he's played very well. He was excellent against Celtic. That wasn't a big pressure game, but I do believe he could still do it under pressure. We haven't seen him against Europe, so I haven't seen enough of him to say that yes, he should be the number one next season. But I wouldn't say that he couldn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I think like you said, the sample size is not really big enough to say whether he is the number one yet. The one thing that worried me, Marina, was when against Hibs and obviously against St Mirren, when he was put under pressure on the high balls into the box, he flapped a little bit of crosses. He didn't look as assured as when he has the ability just to come to take in his own time. And when that pressure came on, he didn't look as confident. But I mean, I suppose we've got to remember he is only 24, 25, which for a goalkeeper is still very young.
Yes, it's that old like conundrum, isn't it? Like for jobs and for everything, it's like, how do you get experience? You need experience, but how do you get the experience? So I guess the great thing about winning a trophy this season is that we got the chance to give him at least some game time. I would rather have won some trophies, but yeah. So he has looked a wee bit shaky in sometimes, like against Hibs, against St Mirren, like you said. But so far he's won every game he's played. So
Yeah, he has, and he's obviously kept. I think he's only conceded 1 goal in those 6 games as well, which is the Hanlon header in the 93rd minute against Hibs as well, which is pretty incredible. Very, very good indeed. Obviously, the talk is all around Jack Butland coming in to replace him. What's your take on Jack Butland, Marina?
I'm so worried about this wage bill. Like when you hear the rumours about what he was offered. Yeah, I think he'd certainly be good enough. It'd be a good challenge for McCrory. I assume that if Butland come in and with his wages that he would be the number one choice. But my football knowledge outside of Rangers isn't that great, to be honest. So I don't know too much about him, but he's obviously very high regarded.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he's, from what I've seen of him playing down here, and he hasn't played a lot recently. He's been out of favour at Palace, and he's obviously been backup goalkeeper at Manchester United. So hasn't had a lot of games because they've got David De Gea. But I mean, he's 6'5", he's a big old unit. He commands his area well. He's a good shot stopper. So he's certainly someone I think come in and push McCrory. And I think, like Beale said in his press conference, we need strength and depth. We need 2 quality players for every possession. And there was an analogy that I used earlier on one of the videos I released, which is I follow a lot of NFL, and one of the head coaches there talks about 2 dogs, 1 bone. He talks about how the 2 dogs fight over the 1 bone, and the fittest dog wins the bone. And that's what he wants to see when he's got 2 players competing for a position. So I think there might be an element of that this summer with McCrory and Butland, 2 dogs, 1 bone, fighting over that starting jersey.
Absolutely, yeah. No, a bit of healthy competition can't really do any harm.
Absolutely, it's going to push up standards. Now, my co-host Victoria, who is watching from Canada while she's doing whatever she's doing in Canada, says, "Now, this is a really horrible question because I would struggle to answer this one." Marina, what was your favourite part of the season?
Thanks, Victoria. Well, probably PSV. Qualifying for the Champions League for the first time in so long was just incredible. Such a great feeling. Of course, that is slightly tainted by then going on to have the worst ever record in the Champions League. So it's between that and the signing of Todd Cantwell.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the signing of Todd Cantwell's got to be up there, and Todd Cantwell's been absolutely superb since he's come in. I mean, his energy, his effort, his desire to play for the shirt. One of the things that really impresses me about Cantwell, Marina, is the fact that 92nd, 93rd minute, he is still charging back, getting back, tackling people, still putting in the same effort that he puts in the first minute, isn't he?
He's everything that we want from a Rangers player, that hunger, that drive. I was at the Heart and Hands show at Edmonton House on Friday, and Kevin Thompson was saying about Rangers under Walter and how the players, the team, they looked forward to playing Celtic. They rose to the challenge, and I think that's where we've kind of lacked recently. And Bailey even said it himself that a lot of the team, weren't confident in the Old Firm games, but Cantwell personifies that. He's and hopefully it's infectious.
Absolutely, he is superb. Him and Raskin have been fabulous since they've come in. And Ian Campbell in the live chat says his favourite moment was beating, I think that's Celtic 3-0, obviously at Ibrox. The time, I presume, is some reference to Celtic, which would, let's keep this a family-friendly show on that, which is sometimes hard. So the other player, obviously, who came on Saturday, and there was again questions over his future, is Antonio Cholak. Obviously scored on Saturday. Michael Beale questioned his fitness and his ability to keep fit. Is Cholak, what's your impressions of Cholak this season, and do you think he has a future at the club, Marina?
I like Cholak, I do, and I think it's hard to tell because his dip in form kind of followed his injury. So I don't really think it's fair to judge on that. He's such a promising start to the season. I certainly think that he has a future at Rangers, especially with with Cantwell and Raskin, and we're signing some creative midfielders. If they can provide him the service, I'd really like to see what he can do. I loved that he scored a header at the weekend, because I remember thinking at the start of the season when he was scoring that he didn't seem to score for a tall guy. He didn't really seem to score many headers. So it's kind of showing that he has that in his box as well. So Perhaps, potentially, I guess it's the same as Sakala. You want, even your squad players, you want to be able to trust them, that they can, for Cholak, that he can score against Motherwell, that he can score against Celtic, and they can score in Europe. You know, I don't doubt that he can do those things. He's scored against bigger clubs than Celtic, PSG, us even. So yeah, I think he could have a future. If I don't know if it'd be a squad player, probably, like, based on like his current form. So, and I don't even know if he'd be happy with that, but I wouldn't rule him out.
Yeah, me too. I think he's got a place at the team. I think, you know, if you look at his stats from this season as well, he's recorded some pretty decent stats. Top of my head, I think it's 18, 19 goals this season in an injury-affected season. You know, it's a pretty decent return for him. And I think, you know, with him running the team, I think he could be a threat. And, you know, given the fact that strikers are very expensive commodities and you are unlikely to get a free one knocking around anywhere, we are going to have to pay money for strikers this summer. And if the wage bill isn't, if the transfer budget isn't there, then keeping hold of someone like Cholak, I think, is going to be exceptionally vital, I think, for the club going forward, for definite. A nice comment there from Jimmy Duff in the live chat, Marina. What take is that his highlight of the season was the final whistle at Paisley at the weekend.
That made me laugh when I read that there.
I think that's fair enough, I think, on that one, definitely. And David, I think Ian here echoing what you've said. I think Cholak needs someone to feed him regular. Yeah, he's not a centre forward who creates for himself, is he? He's someone who actually, you know, relies on service to score goals. That's who he is. And I think you're right with what you were saying in terms of with those creative players we've now got in. Obviously, Dowell's come in. We'll talk a little bit about him shortly. Obviously, Raskin, Cantwell, Tom Lawrence, hopefully returning next season. There's definitely the players there to do that, isn't there? Now, someone mentioned in the live chat here, Mr. Glass himself, Kamar Roof. I don't know if you've seen the video footage of him working out today, Marina, but he actually looks quite fit at the moment.
I know. I've heard so many things about Roof. You know, that, like, it's, some people are saying that it's mentality. I don't know. It's so disappointing to have such a class striker that scored some great goals for us and then just sitting there doing nothing. Like, how, I don't know. I guess we took that risk when we signed him, but yeah, I don't even know how much he's on. Like, his wages must be high. We've spent so much money on him. How long has he got left? And he's just such an injury risk. Yeah, it's maybe not worth it because, again, to echo what we've said, you need that consistency, and unfortunately, that's not him.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I was reading on social media earlier about someone retweeted the picture of Kamar Roof working out, and someone just said, "Wait till he gets a grass stain on his jersey; he'll be out for a month." I think that's kind of Kamar Roof all over, isn't it? You know, that seems to be the impression we've got of him as a player. This for Rangers, that he gets a grass stain or he gets a grass burn, and that's it. He's out for a month, isn't he? So, yeah, I think he's got a year left on his deal. I think it's time to move him on if we can, if anyone will take him, but who take him other than medical science? I don't know.
Or like psychologists as well, if it is. That's part of it is mental.
I wonder if our friends from across the city want another striker.
I know in our luck, he'd end up like not getting injured.
Yeah, probably. No, in our luck. Yeah. It's a point here from Mark Curlin in the live chat. Says Cholak's numbers at the beginning of the season were as good as Haaland's. If it's Beale thinks he will fit into his plans, I think that's very true. So obviously, I think that's one of the things that has been raised is whether he fits into Beale's plans. You know, Michael Beale, since he came in November, I think has always insisted that, you know, this second part of the season, Marina, was very much about managing it through to the end of the season, wasn't it? You know, getting through to the end of the season. Are you optimistic about the future under Michael Beale?
Yes, I am. I'm quite an optimistic person in general, but I'm really optimistic. But there's I've got evidence for this. I think his two signings in Cantwell and Raskin have been fantastic. If they're the benchmark, then we've got a lot to look forward to. Yeah, in our performances, we have played disappointing Old Firm games, but apart from that, obviously the Hearts game was a bit different with the squad choice, but Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future. I really do believe that we can do it, and that's not just hope. Yeah, and do you know, it would just be nice. I'm sure everyone will feel this. It would just be nice to have like a year with the same manager and just to be able to relax and trust the manager.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much to Jim for the live chat, for the super chat and the thing, £10. Thank you very much for that. That's about probably about one drink these days, isn't it? You know, with the cost of living crisis and everything going up. Thank you, Jim, so much. Anyway, so we talked obviously about Michael Beale. Yeah, I'm very optimistic too about Michael. I just think that he's a great coach. He seems to be very switched on to what the club needs. And like you said, Marina, I think the signings of Cantwell and Raskin do show that he has a really good eye for a player. And I've been impressed as well with the players that he's brought in so far, the players he's targeting. And since obviously Ross Wilson left, he's really got involved, hasn't he, in that whole bringing in of the players as well, which is really fantastic to see.
Yeah, definitely. I know. So I don't know if it's just Beale or with a bit of the board shake-up as well. I do think that the future looks bright and we have a lot to look forward to. And I'm really interested. I know some of the players that we've been like that we're kind of linked with. Or like Cifuentes. Not that I know much about them, but it does seem to be, yeah, like a lot to look forward to. And as you say, it's his eye. He does seem to have a good eye for talent.
Absolutely, 100% he does, yeah. And Raskin and Cantwell, I think, are really good examples of that, and they've been fantastic as well. So Rangers Loyalist says a £5 super chat. Thank you very much for that as well. Aldo jokes I can get a bottle of Buckfast and 2 tins of Tennant's Lager for that tenner, I think. Mark Curl in the live chat says, I think Beale has surprised a lot of people since coming in. His signings have been top class so far. Long may it continue. Obviously, there is going to be a lot of change, isn't there, this summer? But I think obviously, the target has to be to catch and pass our friends from across the city. How far realistically do you think we're actually behind the Marina?
I don't think we're behind them. Like it would be too painful to admit that anyway. But I think like the stats show that we're pretty level since Beale joined. So I don't think we're behind them at all. I think that we are progressing and we're moving upwards, and they at best are plateauing or hopefully going downhill. Yeah, whereas we are bringing in, or so far we've brought in signings, good new signings. I can't remember like any of the last signings of theirs that have been impressive. So I really don't think we're behind them at all, and that's why I'm just so keen to, after wishing this season away, I'm so keen for next season to start, and so that we can finally prove that. But I think with a better manager, I think the team could be like for like, or we maybe just didn't it.
Absolutely. I agree. I don't think we're as far behind as people kind of make out we are. I know, realistically, you look at the table with that number of points behind them. Yes, we've only beaten them once this season, but for me, I mean, that part, if you go back even to the Parkhead game where we lost at Parkhead 3-2, for me, we gave them that game and we were the better team on the day. And I think on another day, we could have easily beat them. I mean, what was your take on that, Marina?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt there. If Morelos' goal hadn't been chopped off, it could have been a different game as well. I'm still a bit bitter about that. So yeah, I think quite often between Rangers and Celtic, it can just come down to a bit of luck as well. But yeah, all Old Firm games under Beale, I think we have been the better team. We've just not taken our chances. So there are areas that we need to improve, and hopefully, when we do that, then we'll be able to take those chances once we get some strikers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's been the big thing. Obviously, Alfredo has fallen off obviously this season, and look, we all loved Alfredo during 55 and during the Europa League run and everything, and what he's given us in the past, and just the character of Alfredo as well. I mean, that for me, Marina, was another big thing with Alfredo, wasn't it? Just his character, and witness that the Hearts game, which was very strange, which the 2-2 draw, when he went over after Cantwell scored and he's given it this to Stephen Naismith. Are you going to miss that side of Alfie, Marina?
Yes, I did. He was just such a character, but at the same time, when you asked me that question, I must have had so many flashbacks of red cards and fear there. So again, another liability in a way. I will miss his cheeky thing, but I think, yeah, it'll just be good not to. And I think eventually it went against him. I don't think he was as bad as the referees. Just would never give him a chance after that, and a lot of that was his own fault. I do get that, but his card was marked. So, but yeah, he was a huge character, and I loved him. But life will probably be a bit less stressful without him, but not as exciting as well, because he was very exciting. There was nothing more exciting than watching him run towards goal in a Europa League night. So many wonderful memories attached to that.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Some fantastic memories, fantastic goals from Alfie. Alexander, thank you very much for the super sticker in the live chat. Question here from Brian, or Darth Vader, depending on what you're looking at his picture or not. He says, who's going to be our next signing? Marina, you got any predictions as to who we're going to bring in next?
Isn't Butland, I guess, by the way, current, well, I don't know, from what I'm currently reading, or I don't know. So who have we got? So we've just signed Sterling, and Butland is looking close, and we've still to sign Cifuentes. That's looking quite close.
Yeah.
As I said, I don't know too much of football, outside of Rangers. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to take. It's probably best that I haven't heard of the signings, because if I've heard of the signings, then that means they're quite old, and yeah, from years gone by, and I've been burnt too much already by Aaron Ramsey, Bruno Alves, Cranchar, and Eagle Olsenstad. So yeah, probably best I've not heard of them, to be honest.
Absolutely. So personally, I think Butland is the top tip, I think, to come in next. That seems to be the strongest rumour, but it won't be until after the FA Cup final on Saturday that any deal can be done for him, because obviously he's beyond the bench for Man United on Saturday. And then obviously the transfer window opens June the 14th. So again, we've got a situation where we've obviously got to wait to sign players. Talking of that, obviously, how bringing in players, as we know, this is going to be huge, isn't it? How many players, realistically, Marina, do you think we need to bring in to make this team truly competitive, not only in Scotland but in Europe?
Wow. So I don't know about a number. So we need a keeper. So Butland probably. A couple of strikers, I'd say. So what's that? 3 I'm on now. Probably a centre half as well. 4. It feels weird actually, because I think for years the default answer, when saying what positions do we need to fill, the answer is always creative midfielder, and we sort of have that now. Cantwell and Raskin, and I guess Cifuentes, and I guess no, not Sterling, he's a defender. But yeah, and sorry, my mind's gone blank. But so. Yeah, I think we get that, but yeah, you can never have too many creative midfielders. So
absolutely.
How many did you get to there? Sorry.
I think about 5 or 6 there. I think you're in the kind of ballpark there. I think you're 5, 6. I've heard mentioned 6 to 8 has been kind of a ballpark figure to bring in. There's a question here from Mark in the live chat, says, who is this 20-year-old we're meant to be putting a 5.2 million offer from Dynamo Zagreb? That guy's a guy called Mataja Frigan. I don't know a great deal about him, but I know he's a Croatian youth international, so that's another possible link there. Thank you, Rangers loyalist, another super sticker, £2 there. Thank you very much for that. RFC 56 says, live chat's going so fast, trying to keep up with it. Wingers and strikers, top quality. We do need a winger to replace Ryan Kent. Paul McGarrigle says, hopefully Madja after Friday night. I personally would love to see Josh Madja come in. I've seen Madja play up close, and he is a very, very talented player. Strikers to score goals, definitely 100%. Lots of love for Madja in the live chat here. And again, definitely we need strikers. RFC strikers are a big thing, but strikers are exceptionally expensive. That's the one big issue, and obviously we need the money needs to be there to obviously go out and buy those players. And it is going to be a situation where I don't know how much money we have. who knows? Who knows? I've heard 12 to 15 million. I've heard 15 to 20 million. Don't know if you've heard any rumours through Heart and Hand, Marina, about how much money we have to spend.
No, unfortunately not. No behind the scenes knowledge or anything.
No worries.
But yeah, I guess like
no.
the majority of that should be going on strikers, like you say, apart from the lucky team that are going to pick up Alfredo Morelos for free. But yeah, you're as you said earlier, you don't really get strikers on the cheap.
No, absolutely. One of the players, obviously, that there's continuing speculation about Marina is Malik Tillman. And obviously, you know, that situation has become a little bit clouded this week because of the sacking of Oliver Kahn and Hassan Salihamidzic, who is the Bayern Munich sporting director. I mean, realistically, first of all, Marina, would you like Tillman back? And do you think he will come back?
I thought I did, like, until really recently. I was all like, yes, spend the money, get Tillman. But at that point, how is it 5 million or how much is
5.2 million?
5.2 million. If our budget's 12 million, that's a big chunk of that. And I don't know. I guess his form kind of fell away towards the end, and I don't know if that's to do with injury. So again, like, he's not really shown that he can like perform well against Celtic, and that is very important. Yeah, so I was firmly, like, spend money on him, but now I'm not so sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I was initially in the let's get him. He looks class. He looks fantastic. But I'm just now at the point where, look, I get what some fans say. He's 20 years old. It's his first season in professional football, etc., etc. But he didn't do it against Celtic. He hasn't done it in Celtic games. Other big games in Europe, he didn't show up for. And I just think 5.2 million is an awful lot to spend on one player when we need out and out strikers, and we've got Yanis Hadji, we've got Todd Cantwell, we've got Tom Lawrence, we've got Kieran Dowell now as well. I just think that, where do you play Tillman with all that talent as well?
Yeah.
Where do you put him? And I get the whole speculate to accumulate, but then I've heard at the same point that Bayern Munich, if they sold him to us, would put a buyout clause with a set price in, which they can do as obviously the selling club, which then would restrict the amount of money we'd make. And then you've got the whole situation around, well, would you make back what you're paying him in wages, plus with what you've outlaid in the transfer fee? So I don't think it's going to be as profitable as a lot of people think it is. And, you know, as Aldo says in the live chat, do we need Tillman? I realistically don't think we do anymore. You know, if Hadji does stay, for example, I know that'll make Victoria happy because Victoria loves Hadji. Hadji, Cantwell, Lawrence, Dowell. I think there's enough talent there, enough creative talent there not to need him.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree with everything you said, which I did think that, yes, but when you think it over, I don't think we need him now.
Absolutely.
Sadly, because we did like him. He was a nice guy, or seems like a nice guy.
He was a good player, but like I said, I just think that 5.2 million is a lot of money to pay at this stage. And look, 5.2 million in the grand scheme of things is not a lot of money. Not for an EPL club, not for Bayern Munich, but for Rangers, it is at this moment in time. We're not back in the days of the 80s when, you know, Graham Souness was the manager and we could buy any player we wanted, but we're just not in those days anymore. We don't have that sort of cash swimming around, and we don't want to put the club in a dire financial position again. So we've got to be sensible. And I think that 5.2 could perhaps be used on a couple of players to come in and strengthen the squad. So definitely the case. Obviously, one of the players we have brought in is Kieran Dowell from Norwich. Marina, what do you think of the Dowell signing?
If he's half as good as Cantwell, then I'll be delighted. Massive Cantwell fan, as you might have gathered.
Yeah.
So I don't know too much about him before that. I do know that I was chatting to one of my friends is an Everton, like he lives in Liverpool and he's an Everton supporter, and I remember speaking to him about Dowell about 5 years ago. And back then, my friend was very complimentary. Like, yeah, he scored some worldies, and he said they're good at lobbing the keeper, whatever. So, yeah, my friend Ross was very positive about him. So I'd be happy. But honestly, right now, I'd probably sign Jordan Cantwell, like anyone linked to Cantwell.
Absolutely, yeah. Todd Cantwell is superb. Oh, for a team of Ted 10 Todd Cantwells even.
Tongue twister there.
Yeah, but no, Dowell looks a decent player to me, and certainly some of the Norwich fans I've heard talk about when he's been fit. And I think he's been unlucky with that ACL injury he had this year. When he was fit, they liked him, and a few people said he was better than Cantwell as well. So, like you said, if he's half the player Cantwell is, we've certainly got ourselves a great player. And I don't know if have you heard the song, the Dowell song yet, Marina?
No, I don't think so.
Well, apparently it's the tune of that, down, 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 that one.
Dow,
that one. I'm not going to sing it because everyone will turn off if I sing. But yeah, that's that song. That could be catching on, but I can't really see the Union Bears singing Dow, Dow, Dow.
I don't think you'd hear them singing ABBA, but you do. So I know. I think it's good that he comes with his own song, but I think we've probably learned in the past by not giving players songs before they earn one. But Cantwell's definitely due a song. He's earned one. Matondo, I think, would a song for him before he'd even played. So maybe we need to be careful who we sing songs about. Absolutely, until they earn it.
Well, we'll leave it to you, Marina. With your love of Todd Cantwell, we'll let you write a song for him.
I love your blonde hair.
A love song, yeah. Can't imagine the Union Bears singing that one.
I can.
Rangers loyalist, thank you again for another £5. Victoria says no one's selling Hadji. Lol. Victoria does love Yanis Hadji. She even has her own Yanis Hadji song, which she won't let me show everybody anyway. So the last test, sort of bring it together, Marina, and thank you so much for being on tonight. It's been fantastic. How hopeful are you for next season in terms of the Scottish Premier League, in terms of the cup competitions, and in terms of overtaking that lot?
Well, I'm very hopeful. Usually it's blind optimism, not when it comes to changes, but I'm very hopeful. Yeah, I can't wait to just get this team together with the new signings and start playing. Ideally, we need to win the league, and to do well in Europe. Qualify for the Champions League, get that money. It doesn't really matter if we don't progress in the Champions League, realistically, as long as we don't, beat our own record of the worst performance ever, or don't disgrace ourselves. We try and, get some credit back in the bank. Hopefully it can be hard to improve in last season's Champions League. But yeah, let's see us in the Champions League. It would be great to win the League Cup and just get that monkey off our backs. But at the same time, that if we're still doing well in Europe, then I won't be too distraught about the League Cup. But League, Scottish Cup, actually the treble and do well in Europe, that's no less.
High hopes. Yeah, I agree with you. Look, there's realistically no reason why if we build right this summer, why we can't be in that position to really contend, and to win the league at very least, win the Scottish League and Cup double would be nice. And I'm totally with you on this Champions League, on qualifying for the Champions League. I know people have been put off by what happened last season, but a couple of things, that like you said, the money is really good in the Champions League. I think it's 55 million you make just for being in the group stages, which is valuable revenue for us. And I just think that Michael Beale is a whole lot more tactically astute than Gio Van Bronckhorst. And I don't think he would put us in that position to be hammered like we were from Liverpool, to be hammered like we were from Napa, to be embarrassed as we were last season. I think he will put us in a position to compete. And, even if we only get third spot, at least you then drop down into the Europa League. So you get a second go in the European competition. So for me, the Champions League is absolutely vital next season. Absolutely vital indeed. Quote from Mark Curlin here in the live chat. Max had some good points tonight. He says, I have a friend who supports Norwich. She said that Dowell and Cantwell are a force to be reckoned with. Marina would certainly echo your thing on Todd Cantwell there. Nicholas says, we will have a brilliant squad, hopefully by the start of the new season, if the signings so far are anything to go by. Ian Campbell says, the league is our bread and butter games, what we want. Paul McGarrigle says, we need the Champions League coefficient points as well, which is very true indeed. And also Brian, the super chat, thank you so much for your super chat. Everyone's been super generous tonight. Thank you so much. That's for Victoria to have a drink. And sorry about Hadji, because Brian said about selling Yanis Hadji earlier in the live chat. Marina, would you sell Yanis Hadji?
If the price is right. I'm sorry, Victoria. Was it Galatasaray are interested, or
Yeah.
so yeah, if the price is right, I do love Haji, but I guess everyone has a price tag, but yeah, so probably I wouldn't not sell him. The politician's answer there.
Rangers loyalist, thank you so much. He has been super generous. Apparently dipping into his wife's purse. Apparently he said earlier in the live chat. Title 56 is coming this season, absolutely. And get ready for that Timplosion that will follow on from that victory. Well, Marina, let's kind of call it a show tonight. 45 minutes to thank you very much for giving up your time and coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you about all things Glasgow Rangers. Any final thoughts, Marina?
No, thank you very much for asking me on. It's really it's been a lot of fun. Victoria, I'm disappointed that I didn't meet you, but I look forward to meeting you sometime. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really do think that the future is bright and that we've got a lot to look forward to.
Absolutely, and we'll definitely have you back on, Marina, when Victoria's free, so we can have you can have 2 women and 1 males on a football podcast, which would be fantastic. Although you did have that the other week on Heart and Hand, didn't you, with yourself and Caroline? With was it with Cami or someone?
Yes.
The other week?
Yeah, Cami invited Caroline and I on to Pod Extra with them, which was good fun.
Absolutely. And obviously, look for Marina on Heart and Hand, obviously the biggest Rangers podcast, absolutely fantastic podcast. First podcast I ever got into listening to as a Rangers fan. So yeah, thank you. And thank you ever so much, Marina. I agree 100% with Marina. The future is bright. Definitely we are heading in the right direction. Marina, just a quick question in the live chat. Where can anyone find you if they want to follow you or they want to find out a little bit more about your views on Rangers?
I'm not on YouTube. I always thought a face for a podcast. So I come on here. This is my first YouTube or my first video podcast. So on Twitter, Marina Bannatyne, I think it's just my name. I've got quite an unusual name. So I'm at Marina Bannatyne on Twitter. Sorry, I should really know
No, it's okay. What I'll do is I'll drop it in the description when I make sure the video posts out tomorrow morning properly. I will put it in the people on Twitter and find out your views and follow you and find out all your views on Rangers, obviously going into next season. Okay, thank you very much, Marina. Thank you very much to everyone in the live chat. Thank you to everyone who has been super generous. Thank you to all the comments. And as we always say here on Glasgow Rangers Nation, this is your show. It is by the fans. Myself and Victoria are fans of the club. That's where our love started. And we do it for you, the fans. We want to build that family. We want to build that Rangers community. Thank you again, Marina. And we'll catch you very soon here on Glasgow Rangers Nation.